Ladies, I'm sorry about the times we could have had that we won't be able to have. Because I already know what they will do. I've dealt with these people for over 2 decades. Mental health, secret societies, control freaks, the military, law enforcement, what have you. But I'm going to tell her how it is. Remember Pike said in his book Morals and Dogma that Freemasons will be subjugated by the wisest and the best. The wisest and the best. Now keep in mind that Masons gave us our systems. And even if you don't believe that, certainly you can understand how people who value science and philosophy, would use the scale of scientific departments to determine who's the wisest and the best. So then it is very apparent that Francis Galton will be considered among the wisest and the best. And he was in the same country that Masonry started. For example, let me give you this paragraph. Of that equilibrium between authority and individual action, which constitutes free government by settling on immutable foundations, liberty with obedience to law, equality with subjection to authority, and fraternity with subordination to the wisest and the best, and so on and so forth. So, according to the main authority on Masonic philosophy, Morals and Dogma, it's right there in the title, Morals and Dogma. This is Morals and Dogma using their lens. It said regardless of how Masonry is defined to you by the wisest and the best, you are supposed to be subjugated, subjected, subordinated, controlled, following their lead. So now that I've established that both Francis Galton is a Mason and that they would be inclined, to put it lightly, to follow his lead, and thus the eugenics history of America that continues to this day was established. Now let's go on to the other point. Remember long ago I said I am the top martial artist and I am being persecuted for my political views. Through interviews with people who say that they were told to provoke me to go to the psych ward, I have proven it. My mom being covertly recorded not once but twice. Once proving that they are filming my room, and 2 showing that she told me that someone came to take pictures and described his car to a T. I passed that same car. It was gray with a red stripe around it, on the road. I believe the windows were tinted. Okay, and I saw a guy that fits the description who I do not know whether or not is the same guy, who she claimed, who she gave me a description of having taken pictures of the house. That also is a provocation designed to land me in the psych ward, or why else allow yourself to be caught doing it? Unless to give me the impression that I am that I am being persecuted or someone's plotting to do something to me. Which is obviously the case, but it was a subtle threat of violence or of future violence. Then there was the guy on the side of the road in the white pickup truck, the bald head white guy, who flipped a U-turn right next to me, while saying to me, very slowly, mind you, his window down, my window down, "Do you live here? Where do you live? Where do you live?" And he said, "Don't worry, they just want you to think that they're coming for you." And he drove away. Now, that I don't have on camera, but what I did record was the picture of the people parking behind me on that same spot of road where I upload my videos. Okay? For no reason, in the middle of nowhere, they chose to stop there. No reason at all. There was 2 of them in the car. They didn't go out to check their tires, and I have that on camera and pictures of it. So, I'm going to throw that in there as well, because it definitely does imply persistent stalking. Then I have 4 or 5 videos that show phone hijacking, and the most recent of which, relative to the release of this video, shows you that they typed in the word ass. keep in mind, before I released that video, before I caught that on camera, I had made the claim that gays in Morgan Hill were harassing me, and that there were several gays at In-N-Out whom I believed drugged my food. And the chemical fumes or drugs in the air in my room seemed to indicate that and implicate the gay rights activists in the area, or some sort of a gay group, perhaps outside of Masonry, perhaps Masons themselves, some advocates of gay rights. There is so much evidence on record, dozens of interviews on record. The Santa Cruz police lieutenant who said to the news, with witnesses and everything, on the news, I have clips of that as well, that gang stalking is real, and they've just now begun to use social media sites. And what was happening to me on my phone, it was happening on a social media site, on Facebook. I mean, all the evidence paints a very clear picture. Yes, I am being persecuted for my political views. Yes, like the lady said in the interview, they intend to provoke me to go to the psych ward, which proves that psychiatry is a fraud. They have no valid way to detect a mental illness, nor do they really understand the nature of reality or what constitutes a mental illness. Vague descriptions at best. Okay? All that's established. I'm going to leave you with one more thought. It also seems to establish it on the top martial arts. It's not definitive proof, but it highly suggests that. It would be a lot easier to search among the most talented martial artists in America to find someone to beat me, instead of drugging me, cheating, and persecuting me for my potential reverent power as being the top martial artist. They couldn't do it. You know, why do cheaters cheat? Because they can't win otherwise. Now, let us look at this, shall we? There will be many people who say something absurd like, well, you are not strong enough to be the top martial artist. Martial arts are based on the idea of refined blows, not brute force. That is something that came later. Okay? The highest form of martial arts is someone built like me, Bruce Lee, or a Shaolin monk who concentrates on decisive precision strikes. Period. To say that the bigger guy has the advantage is like saying that the impala has the advantage over the leopard, or that the common farm pig has the advantage over the mountain lion. Utterly absurd. For the same reason they don't have the advantage. Think about this now. Use that martial art insight. Remember the 5 animal styles. Animals are commonly compared for a reason. For that same reason. A big, strong guy is like a slow-moving target. It's not a matter of if someone like me can kill him. It's a matter of how I decide to kill them. Do I want to make them think they have a chance? Do I want to toy with them? Do I want to give them a chance to grab me and then go around them and stab them, you know, in the carotid artery? Stab them in the eye, stab them in the heart, stab them in the liver, the kidney, the gut, the intestines. Do I want to rip out their intestines? Do I want to cut out their tongue and give them a Colombian necktie? How do I want to kill them? The femoral artery? Watch them bleed and it gush? Perhaps I want to stab them in a bunch of arteries at once and just create a blood pool. It's not a matter of if I am the best compared to someone like that. It's a matter of how I want to kill them. Period. And any true martial arts master will tell you that. And in a universal code of honor that exists in every martial art is that you do not claim you can beat somebody that is offered a universal challenge. It is dishonorable. They say, you know what, I'm not going to accept his challenge, which proves beyond any doubt who applies dexterity, precision, and speed the best with a masterful mind. You know, the mind of the son of a brain surgeon, for example, you know, the mind of someone who scored the top 1 percentile on the SSAT, who did Algebra 2 in kindergarten and so on, you know, who applies these skills masterfully. I'm just as fast as the fastest fighters, but I am more athletic from years of basketball and martial arts. Okay? Precision striking is the very fast precision striking applied masterfully with dexterity is the very definition of martial arts. Because once you can apply that, you can also apply the blocks because you understand the attack. Hell, you've mastered these attacks. You understand how to block them. You understand how to apply them, and you understand how to keep them from being applied on you. Period. Straightforward. Now, with that being said, there is also a place for the big, strong guy. It's called grappling. There are arenas for that like the UFC, but this is not martial arts. There hasn't been a single UFC fight in the history of the sport that shows who applies precision striking better. Period. They talk about well-rounded fighters, not top martial artist material, but fighters. None of those guys, mark my word, has ever been the top martial artist. But some of them have been perhaps the top UFC fighter of their time. When you couple that with me being covertly drugged in a capitalist society where people cheat and lie every day. No one can beat me. Yes, I am the best. If that happens to make big and strong people feel like they're second-rate martial artists, well, they are. Okay, but let's face it. We live in a society that is ignorant enough to celebrate fighters over martial artists. Capitalist fighters who value materialism and what people think over true martial artists who value a code of honor. So, at the end of the day, there are two types of quote-unquote martial artists that are traditional. Those that are the grapplers, like Biafran grappling and so on, and Greco-Roman wrestling and on and on. Okay, these are martial arts techniques for training and for competition that have been turned into a sport because there's the lack of the rituals and the lack of the traditional events that are associated with them, that go along with them. Okay? So relative to what I'm talking about, they are sports. There's two different categories. But make no mistake, the precursive arts will always be the supreme form of martial arts applications. Always. Hands down. Why? Because these were the battlefield arts. Ekpa, the leopard society in Igbo, okay? It was sacred and unspoken, their war arts, their combat arts. There was two things they kept secret on record. You can look it up. Now, I don't know what they did because I'm not part of that secret society. But they admit themselves, it's on record, that there's two things they kept secret. Their war arts and their most sacred symbols and philosophies. Now, ask yourself, why would they include war arts with the two things they kept secret? Why not, techniques for having sex? Why not cooking recipes? Why not science? And so on. Because the most important things in almost every religion in history are war arts and sacred religious concepts. When you read the book, Fighting for Honor, the history of African martial arts traditions in the American world, these were closed societies of martial artists. Period. More often than not, these secret societies were martial art-based secret societies. On record, someone with a doctorate in African studies with an emphasis on martial arts. He's an assistant professor. Do your research, people. There's only one way to prove who can strike someone more precisely than, without fighting to the death. That is some form of sparring. Full contact, which is less honorable in my opinion, and more likely to cause someone harm for no reason. Or with gear. Because remember, when you're talking about transferable arts, either the person has nothing in their hand, or they have something in their hand. Either way, the glove acts as a representative of meeting it halfway, something attached to your hand. So if you can apply the same kind of techniques, with no gear that you can with gear, it means that you can also apply it with weapons, and I have also displayed that effectively with my admirable weapons demonstrations. Let's face it, I'm right, and nobody with any honor or any understanding would say otherwise. Thank you. One final note. Keep in mind that there are many people that practice martial arts that aren't necessarily a good fighter. You know, somebody who is very athletic and strong might be able to overcome a black belt in karate, for instance, who is skinny and has mastered the blows. Now, I said the highest level of martial arts excellency is precision striking. It doesn't mean that everybody who's accurate with their strikes is the top martial artist or can beat everybody who's strong. There will be many cases where the people who are black belts aren't violently inclined like I am, and they'll land more hits maybe before a bigger guy takes them to the ground and beats the hell out of them, you know, or gets them in a headlock or something, and they're not able to escape, you know, arm bar, or, you know, something like that, some MMA technique especially, or just some basic wrestling technique, you know. This happens a lot. What also happens a lot is some skinny guy pulls out a knife on some bigger guy and stabs him to death. It happens in prison. It happens on the street. It happens especially in the UK, ironically, where masonry came from. You know, so what does it mean to be the top martial artist and have these transferable skills? It means you can kill the bigger guy if he pulls out a knife, you know, and you grab what is around you and fend him off, or maybe you disarm him and stab him to death. It means you can take the skinnier guy. It means you can take anybody. But don't make this mistake of believing that just because somebody has trained martial arts for a number of years, then automatically they can beat some big guy who's gotten in a lot of street fights. You know, some guys are just tough, and if you're not violent enough, and if you're not willing to strike them where it hurts, and to keep striking them where it hurts until they fall, you know, chances are you're just going to piss them off, and they're going to beat you up, you know? So having a black belt doesn't guarantee victory. Okay? Nothing guarantees victory. There's also lucky punches. You know, somebody who's Kimbo size and hits hard like him, you know, might be able to beat me. You know, it'll be like 99 times out of 100, I'll kill them. But there's that one time where he might land that punch and boom, lights out. You know? There's such thing as the lucky punch too. There's a lot more variables in this than you think. But being the top martial artist with a lucky punch or something like that doesn't mean that you're better than him, obviously. You know, it means you landed a lucky punch. And it really takes the insightful observer to make that distinction, to differentiate and distinguish between, you know, oh, that guy got lucky, versus most times, you know, in most days when these two people fought, that guy would win. You see what I'm saying? So I don't want, you know, you skinny guys to automatically say, you know what, he's right about that, and go get yourself, you know, get pulverized by some, you know, bodybuilder or something. You know, you got to think. Whenever you take on somebody who's big and strong, and they're not like slow and lazy, and they're hyped up and they're angry like Tyson or something, you know, you've got to be willing to take it to a higher level of violence. That's why I say, you know, the only types of people that pose a threat to me are the types of people I'm going to have to kill if they ever confront me. That's why I say, look, I will defend myself and I will kill them, you know, because it's not a game. There are countless examples of people getting hit by some huge bodybuilding guy. They go into a coma and they never wake up. Or they hit their head against the ground and they're dead. Or the brute force alone killed them. There's a thin line between being hit by a guy who can bench press 525 pounds, who's practiced hitting the heavy bag, and being hit with a bar on top of your head or something, you know? So you got to really understand all the dynamics of fighting. When you truly do, you come to the conclusions that I have, you know? So I would say, for the most part, people who are big and strong and hit hard dominate the streets only because there are not too many people like me who are precision strikers and who can apply it masterfully. You know, so therefore, most of the tough guys on the street aren't precision fighters because there's not that many of us. Not that many true precision fighters with 20 years of martial arts experience, such as myself. You know, there's a bunch of big bodybuilding motherfuckers from the gym, you know, who are pumped up and, you know, have a chip on their shoulder. So, you know, don't get it twisted. That's all I wanted to say on that. Thank you. So when you look at the martial arts, right, I'm going to put this in a way that even some bodybuilder who's not exactly known for their martial artist insight can understand. What do you think is the difference between a knucklehead and a profound martial artist philosopher like Confucius? Well, let's see. There is no such thing as a knucklehead who's considered smart or wise by anyone, not even themselves. And chances are, a lot of these big guys aren't going to concede my point because they're simply not smart enough to. They don't have a code of honor. They don't have a moral code. They just lift weights and act tough and try to impress females at the gym and at the beach. You know? I mean, can we even think of one guy who is a super strong guy who's known for their brains? They don't exist. They just don't. I can't think of a single one, and I've been researching, academics and literature and scholars and going over things my entire life. There's not a single big, strong scholar, Nor is there a single big, strong person known for being a great martial artist. You have to separate the knuckleheads, the dishonorable cage fighters, the dishonorable UFC fighters, from great martial artists who are precision strikers. Okay? There's levels to this warfare stuff. And little kids understand this. Bruce Lee wasn't, known for powerlifting. Neither was Chuck Norris. Neither is Jet Li or Jackie Chan. Even in the celebrity world, there is no, what, you think The Rock is a great martial artist? Come on. Come on. And even in his movies, he tries to portray himself as someone outmaneuvering other people in order to smash on them. Watch his movies if you think I'm kidding. Does he portray himself as simply out-muscling them? No, he's outmaneuvering them. Which is what martial arts are really about. If you can't stop someone from punching you, you better be damn sure that you can't stop someone from stabbing you, that same person. If you can't stop someone from scoring a point on you in sparring, if you have to avoid sparring like the plague, then you better hope that you're never in battle with that person you're avoiding, because I fucking guarantee you, 99% of the time, he will fucking kill you. Dead! There will be no arguing for a knucklehead when they are bleeding out of their neck, the top of their leg, from their gut, from their heart. Stabbed under the armpit. Stabbed in the liver. Now all that weight is working against you. How hard is it to move when you're leaking? How hard is it to move that big body when you are leaking? Becomes what we might call dead weight. Dead weight.
If civil war comes, and I do think it is imminent, you're quite right. It will for us be the price of freedom. Our people here have for a long time been prepared for this eventuality, and I am confident of their readiness. I think that when it does come, the people on their side would be surprised as to what they're going to get. And I'm confident that it will not last long. The mad and homicidal desire to exterminate from the face of the earth 14 million Biafrans drove Gawan and his clique towards unleashing a costly war to attain the unattainable, the subjugation of this young but promising republic. Even with the vast resources of the former Federation of Nigeria, with which to prosecute the war, even with the active collaboration of those international opportunists, Britain and the Soviet Union, an unholy alliance of vested interests, even with the attempt to subvert our government by suborning some of our highly placed military and civilian personnel, an attempt which was foiled at the nick of time, Gawan has failed to make good his boast to crush Biafra. A campaign which he bragged would only take 48 hours to accomplish has now dragged on for almost 5 months and will drag on for as long as it takes Gawan and his clique, both Nigerian and others, to realize that nothing can shake the will or crush the spirit of a determined people. If Gawan's military campaign has achieved anything, it is only a confirmation of the fact that Biafrans have nothing to expect but destruction from the hands of their erstwhile Nigerian compatriots. In the few border towns which fell into the hands of the Nigerian forces, Biafrans were pillaged and what could not be stolen was destroyed, while the men were shot and tortured and the women defiled.
Notice that the argument was common, that the Igbos were good people, and the opposition view did not claim that they weren't.
It was in the papers here for a long time, and opinion was greatly divided as between those who felt that the Igbos had a case and that Nigeria was badly governed and that it was time that something happened and that the Igbos were good people who deserved to be, and others who felt that Nigeria should remain as it was and the boundaries should remain, and if you it was time that something happened and the Igbos were good people, time that something happened and the Igbos were good people, the Igbos were good people.
Hut, meaning the hut of the first son, is the ancient household of the first Igbo settler to this land, who is thought to be the ancestral father of the entire Igbo race. In front of the ancient structure, which represents his old living room, the man Igbo, as he is known, is depicted by a massive bronze casting that reflects the typical features of an indigene of Ibuku, wearing a traditional loincloth and holding in his hand the highest staff of authority in the form of an elephant tusk. According to legend, the man Igbo did not die naturally, but grew so old that he merely faded away to join his ancestors, thereby informing the proverb in the land of the Igbos that an Igwe or king does not die, but lives forever.
In the British tradition, I never envisaged surrender. I do not apologize for that. I am trained to fight and to win. What do you say? And out spake brave Horatio, the captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth, death cometh, soon or late, but how can a man die better than facing the fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his God? I think I did that, and I'm proud of it.
There is no truth but the reality of your death, grandmother. But you will not die alone.